Welcome to Illo Talk. I am Cory Kerr, and this is Sticker Stint, where I do 30 stickers in 30 days, one sticker every day for 30 days straight, and I do a video about it. This is day 3. I've done 2 other stickers so far, and the the sticker that you're seeing on the screen right now is an iteration of a concept that I did a while ago that I wanted to do as kind of a separate standalone illustration because it was part of another illustration. And so the concept isn't new, but it's a new drawing and everything. Kind of struggled with this one a little bit. Normally in a process like this, I would use a radial gradient in Photoshop, but I'm drawing this on an iPad Pro, and I'm trying out different apps and stuff. I'm still using Sketchbook Pro right now. The radial gradients are not my favorite, and there's no clear way to mask. There's kind of some workarounds that you can do. Anyway, not my favorite thing. So that's what you're seeing on the screen here. I didn't ink this one traditionally. I inked this one digitally, so you can kind of see I can do some color holds and things like that. But I want to talk a little bit about why I like Molotov cocktails. The reason I like Molotov cocktails is because I like rebellion. I don't like rebellion just for the sake of rebellion, but I like rebellion for the sake of change for the better. And you know, if you take human beings versus animals, animals adapt and improve their environment through mutation. And so from each succeeding generation, they will mutate and adapt. They'll, over succeeding generations, develop an opposable thumb or, a carapace that protects against whatever, or, like that. They're adapting through mutation. Human beings change our environment quicker than that, and I'm sure that we have mutation as well. We're taller than we used to be or whatever, but we're also social and aware of our effect on each other in a way that is different than the animals. For example, each generation basically comes into its own and says, I don't really like what my parents are doing. I don't like how this is. I don't like this world that I've inherited. I think this is wrong or should be different or could be better. And that dissatisfaction, that non-complacency is what makes the world a better place. It used to be, it wasn't very long ago, that you would just go to bed and wake up in the morning, half of your village would be dead, and everything would be on fire, and you'd say, well, it was dark, right? And it used to be that humanity existed solely based on survival, that everything that we did was surrounded around perpetuating the species to the point where there just would be people around and the society would continue to exist. Ancient Greece, which I've talked about before, would go into this thing where, anybody who is a Greek, you as a male were required to risk your life in battle to protect the society, and if you were a female, were required to risk your life in childbirth to perpetuate the society. Those are the 2 main foundational principles of Greek culture, and it was because of that they continued to exist. The Spartans didn't do that very well. They fixated on the protection and did not focus on the promulgation of the species, and so they didn't have enough kids. Like, they didn't have enough children, and so what actually happened is they were never beaten in battle, to the point where they were wiped out. They just were kind of ceased to exist because they didn't have enough children. And so those 2 things were kind of cultural imperatives. We've progressed past that point. We've progressed to the point where, people can choose not to have kids if they don't want to have kids. We've progressed to the point where peace is not something that everybody on the planet gets to experience, but as a whole, we've stopped worrying about wiping each other off the face of the earth, or a battle so large that it just kills everyone or whatever. And so I can go about my daily business and not worry necessarily about whether I need to defend myself physically on the way to work. or whether someone's going to, whatever, right? But things can still be better, and that's why I like rebellion. Take for example that it was only a few years ago that people could own other people in this country, and that human beings were bought and sold as if they were products, as if they were animals. It's only recently that we let half of the human race vote here in America. It's only recently that these things have happened, and they all happened not because older people, stood up and said, the way I've lived my life for the last 50 years is wrong. That's not how it happened. What happened is each succeeding generation came up and they said, I've got a different idea. I've got an idea that's a little different. And sometimes those rebellions happen slowly, and sometimes they happen very quickly. I mean, if you look at how fast, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at how fast certain things have come into favor or changed for the better, it's happened over the course of several decades. Way faster than a mutation, and way faster than other things. Like, it has taken thousands and thousands of years, and many would argue, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with them, it was taking thousands and thousands of years for women to be respected and have equality. There is some room to grow in that area. There's a lot to be done, but it was unheard of in 5,000 years BC to have women read and write, and yet the Spartans did that. And so this idea of progression and rebellion has been around for a long time. And if you look way back when, Socrates, the Socratic method, and the Sophates and those guys, that was a huge rebellion. Up until that point, truth was truth. And these guys came around and they dressed differently in these flowing robes to show that they had met a series of intellectual standards. And they argued for argument's sake. They focused on the intellectual game of debate. And it was very, very concerning to that culture, and yet it changed the way that people thought. And that has happened, through, Christ coming and saying, maybe an eye for an eye isn't a great idea. Let's evolve that a little bit. Gandhi, said an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth leaves the world blind and toothless. Martin Luther King came about building on Gandhi, and said, hey, I would just have a dream where my kids can play with your kids. And all of these things happened through rebellion. Now, the reason why I like Molotov cocktails and because they're a good symbol is because anybody can make one. There's very little expertise in making them. So there's no gatekeepers. There's no class system. It's not like a sword, where back in the day, in the medieval ages, a sword was an expensive piece of equipment that a craftsman would have to make for you. It would have to be forged in a specific way, and swords, were extremely valuable. No, it's a weapon of the masses. It's a weapon of the people, and it's exceptionally effective. It's bright. It's shiny. It gets people's attention, and it can be used by anyone from any class. Now, I am not in any way advocating violence. I am not in any way advocating, that people should be killed or burned or hurt or whatever. But what I do like about the symbol of a Molotov cocktail is the idea that anyone, any member of an oppressed class, can rise up and have the ability to overthrow their oppressors, or at the very least get their attention and advocate for change for the better. And as we continue to do this, society will continue to get better. And that's, I think, as artists, as creatives, as musicians, as brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers and husbands and wives and whatever role we play in society, I think that this is a critical role that each of us play is that when we see things that are wrong, that we speak out, whether that is vocally or visually. And so, anyway, just my little rant on making things better and leaving the world a better place than what you found it. So there's that. You can find this and other things that I'm making at corykerr.com. If you want to follow along on this sticker stint, then go to corykerr.com/sticker stint. Make sure that you share the stickers that you are creating and designing somewhere on social media and using the hashtag sticker stint. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Oh, one more thing. I do want to know if you guys are doing the sticker stint, leave a comment on this video on YouTube. Leave a comment and let me know a link to where you're sharing those, the primary source that you're sharing those, because I want to kind of gather things up that everybody's doing. All right, guys. We'll catch you later. I'm out.